So welcome to the 25th Coaching Curiosity video. This week I'm going to talk about redundancy and how you might be able to cope with that, to work through it, and some hints and tips, a point of view, and of course a little bit about how coaching helps and how I work with some of my clients that have suffered it. So there's lots of words for it these days. Being fired, being let go, the ones I don't like: downsizing, right sizing, collapsing. I've got an old friend who recently was, posted on LinkedIn, and he said, my role's been collapsed over Christmas period. Crazy ways to explain it. And, there's good ways to do it. Airbnb did it really well last year and set up groups and help and assistance for people they were letting go, and they gave healthcare to the end of the year. Lots of good. So there is you can let someone go, and you can do it in a good way and a right way. There's the definition online when I looked it up was the state of being no longer in employment because there's not more work available. There's no work, or there's not enough work. It's often not the case. Lots of companies seemingly make a lot of profit based on the profit margin of people doing lots and lots of overtime. Really, there's always going to be work, but quite often the case is that there's been a dip, and we see that in recessions and the COVID crisis and all things like that. We see things obviously where there is a lot less work. So it can quite often be the case. So there was quite a nice couple of definitions on the Do Lectures. I love the Do Lecture podcast with Gav Thompson, and I love the books. I've got a few: Do Purpose, Do Design, Do Story, etc. I've got about half a dozen of their books. Really, really good reads. I recommend them. I'll put a link to them. Actually, I've got them on my Coaching Curiosity website, my bookshop, so I'll put them on there. So they say there's kind of two main definitions, which is redundancy, so kind of less work, no work, the role, or being made personally redundant, so kind of fired, as it were. It's often classed as redundancy. Quite often people moving, it's actually classed as redundancy for legal reasons, which might mean that person's had more favourable terms in exchange for not talking about it and silence. So it's harder to find out about that because they're not allowed to talk about it. So that's important to know as well. So the big thing is, look, it's not personal. It's a numbers game. So like I've said before, 99 times out of 100, 999 times out of 1,000, it's not personal. Now look, it feels shitty. It does feel shitty. But the management team that are doing it, or where this list is coming from, is probably being put together abroad somewhere else. So it kind of, while it does feel shitty and personal, it's not. And quite often layers are taken out of the business. Now, I worked in, as a client, president and director for a majority of my career before coaching, and I'd often see clients that had grown and grown and grown, and all companies get a bit plump in times of success, and sometimes they do take a layer out and they get a consultant in to do that. So the good thing to know is that I've heard so many positive stories about how the change brought great opportunities for the future, and I'll put a few of those in the post below from an article that I wrote on redundancy and elements like that. Some people have been made redundant multiple times, but obviously the first time it's always the hardest. Some people come into a business actually and make themselves redundant. They do such a good job. I've known people that have come in, they've gone in and they've gone, right, I've restructured the business, and actually you don't need me anymore. Sometimes if you're the smartest person in the room, it's time to move to another room, as it were. Old Steve Jobs used to say, I don't bring great people in so I can tell them what to do. I bring great people in so they can tell me what to do. Being in the boardroom with him, might be another case. So another thing to know, really, it's emotional. It is a shock, and you have a decision to make. Is it over here, F you, or over here, kind of move on, and take that bitterness, if there is any bitterness to it, take it and take that energy and move it into what you're going to do next. Move it into the change, look at it and try and embrace it. Put that energy into the connections you're going to make, the jobs you're going to apply for, the effort you're going to put into your personal brand, and all of that kind of stuff. Take that and do that. If you need any help, if you are a little bit negative or bitter, give me a shout and I'll share with you a tool that can really help. Maybe it worked for me to put that behind me. And many people, been in a case of, many of my clients were in a case of Stockholm syndrome anywhere, keeping their hand to the stove, as it were, and really wish they'd moved, a couple of years ago, and they actually did want something different. So kind of embrace it. Now it's an opportunity, and redundancy gives you an opportunity to really think about what you want next and what you might really want to follow, and also where you might want to go away and do that. Because you might want to go freelance, you might want to go contract, a maternity contract and do that and try something different. You might want to go back, get on the horse full time. You might want to live a plural career. So it really gives you a good time to think about it. And a lot of stories I've heard, you go and do that somewhere else. There's people I've heard that borrowed camper vans and gone off and done some thinking time. When I left one particular role, I went out to Thailand on holiday, and sorry to say that from a voice of privilege, but it was kind of a holiday that I took the kids and my wife away, and we had an amazing time. But other people that I know and clients I've got, they've gone to live with their parents in the country. They're walking, they're exercising, and they're having a think about what they want next. And you might have spent 20 years thinking, Christ, I wish I could have 3 or 6 months off. Hey, what's the 5% good in every bad situation, as I say, as Coach Face? And that is, that you might have that time to actually have a bit of a rest and a breathe. Yeah. So some of the questions you might work with a coach around redundancy is, what does work give you? What did it used to give you? What's changed? What's now? What are you passionate about? Now, I wrote an article this week because Scott Galloway, I think it was just a quote coming from a probably longer tirade, but he said that following your passions was utter bullshit. And that particular soundbite, when it's probably more intelligent than the actual tirade, or the point he was making, but that little bit just kind of wound me up a little bit, because I think it's possible to follow your passion and your purpose, and it's not just for rich people, like he says. For me, I love brands. I love brands as a kid. I used to collect Coca-Cola memorabilia, and then I worked with brands and I helped brands, and I loved the collaboration of kind of making brands better and what they stand for and promoting them. And now I'm involved as a coach in promoting personal brands and making the best people can be. And so really it's been a common theme, and me helping people do that has been a bit of purpose that I've had throughout my career. So you can do things you enjoy, that you're passionate about. You can follow that purpose, and it doesn't have to be working for a charity, but that would be an awesome thing to do. I've got a very, very close friend who volunteers on a Friday night with the homeless. So there's things you can do on top of your job and that to bring it, but you can also incorporate that into your career. Look at my article for the Japanese term of ikigai and the overlapping circles. So, what to avoid when you've been made redundant? So, stress, and it can be that you're not as productive as you can be, because you lose the rigor and the structure of the working day and the meetings put in and where you've got to be and when. So, when it comes to procrastinating, I always recommend the Pomodoro method. I've got an old timer here that I obviously recommend to clients. So kind of do 15 or 25 minutes on a particular topic, and that topic might be read all the stuff that's in your browser windows, all those open windows, or it might be check your email, or it might be go through my calendar to see what I've got, or it might be tidy up my CV or my profile. Do that for kind of half an hour, 25 minutes, and give yourself a 5-minute reward and a break. So I love the Pomodoro method. You might need a perspective and a chat with a coach or a friend about money and what you've thought about there. And there's things like, mortgage holidays that can help a little bit. There's also the fact that obviously money will last a lot longer because you're not spending it on a lot of those, travel or whatever it might be. Or for me, wardrobe. You haven't really bought much in the last year, but yeah. And there's chances to restructure your savings and things like that. And there's people that you can talk to. So what's next? Coaching can really pull out your strengths, your values, and those transferable skills that you have. And that's really, really important, particularly when applying for different jobs. You can go through, with a coach, go through projects that you did and find out which are the ones when you were in a state of flow. A bit like that moment when you've been in that state of, kind of mindfulness where you've been driving and you don't remember the last minute. There's sometimes when you're doing a project or something that you really enjoy, it gives you energy, and it's kind of you talking to a coach about those can say, actually, what I do like is working by myself and then checking in with people in a team, or I love to host a big brainstorm session and an ideation session and kind of come up with things. So it might be a number of different things. And quite often it can uncover little blind spots about the strengths and the skills that we've got. And then what we can do is sprinkle all of these things, those values that you've got, the strengths that you've got, the transferable ones, sprinkle those onto your CV, or make bespoke CVs for a particular job that you really, really want to nail. Things to be beware of. It's kind of imposter syndrome. I'll put a video link in down below on that. You might feel that you've not got enough skills for something that's been advertised. Kind of no one's got enough skills. There's also a really good article, which I'll put in the comments below, about the guy who was looking after, I think it was HR at Google. It's a really good Fast Company article, and that he never had all of the skills that were required. Now, your imposter syndrome will also tell you not to reach out and ask for help. And one of the best things you can do at this time is mentor other people and give back, and that can help you grow. It can help you actually open doors, and it can help you learn. But also ask other people to mentor you. Don't be afraid to pick up the phone. I've heard 90% positivity, and the 10% where people haven't got back to them. Hey, in the end, those are the kind of people you don't want to be mentored by anyway. Don't let imposter syndrome mess with your head about your age if you're an older person like myself. So own the grey hair that you've got, well, it's down here on me, but own the grey hair, because I was coaching someone recently and they said, hey, I've got grey hair. The senior client's got grey hair, I've got that experience. I'm going to own my experience. So that's another thing to do. Don't be put off by a couple of hundred applications. Sometimes on job platforms, it's an easy apply and you just click and you've applied. Talking to a lot of recruiters, like I have in the past year or so, they say that if you get 100 applications, 50 of those are chancing their arms. They're just baristas or from jobs that might not be even kind of related to these. And then out of the other 50, 25 people have clearly, again, they're aiming too high, or, they're just not right they don't have the right experience. And then the ones that are left, probably 15-20% of the people are the only ones that have actually made an effort, have set and researched the role and said that how great they think it is and how right it is for them. So you're actually, don't look at that big number of the number of applications, because that's not really who you're competing against. So overall, coaching, #ad, coaching helps. It holds a mirror up, which is really, really important, because you've got these blind spots about what you're good at. It gives you a supportive and a safe space. In times of redundancy, it's bloody stressful, and there's stuff you don't want to talk about with your other half, or your parents or whatever it might be, and you can talk those through, and you can be vulnerable, and you can talk this through with a coach, and a coach will help you build a plan. So I can, when it comes to redundancy, I can get you, over the course of a number of sessions, to have a great CV, a great personal brand, give you the confidence to kind of reach out and become, I always say 1-9-90. So 1% of people create stuff, 9% share it and comment, 90% passively kind of consume it. So I can move you from the 90 into the 9, or from the 9 into the 1, and then they give you some of the tools to kind of put yourself out there. I will also put down below a NABS article and a link. They've got a nice bit on their site about redundancy, and that's worth kind of clicking through. And yeah, please spread positivity. If you've been made redundant, pop any experience down below. I'll do some of the previous ones there. Yeah, so have an amazing week. Whenever you're watching this in the future, give me a bell if you want a free chat and a taster coaching session. I'd love to kind of provide that to you. All right, thanks very much. Bye bye.